Strong feelings all around. So we're going to show screen. Very excellent. And we have gone down the rabbit hole. Now we have a browser. Is this where we should start?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, oh, let's, does that look nice? Is it okay if I go full screen?
Yeah.
So it is yours, sir. So first, tell us who you are. Tell us what this is.
Yeah. Okay. So hi, everyone can hear me okay? Yeah. So my name is Chris Oakman, and I'm a web developer. I've been a web developer for over a decade or so. And I'm really excited to be here. Actually, this is my first. So I give a lot of technical talks. I speak on JavaScript and Clojure and other things, but I've never given a talk to the Data Vis group. So I'm actually very excited to be here, even if it's only for a lightning talk. It's kind of late, so I probably won't go more than maybe 10 or 15 minutes. But I'm glad to be here. So I'm an expert in JavaScript. I got to do a lot of JavaScript programming, and anything that happens in the browser, basically, I can make happen. But I often work with visual designers, right? I don't do a lot of visual design myself. But I wanted to share, I did this project and I forced myself to do visual design. So has anyone ever heard of Edward Tuft? Yes. Like the godfather of design, right? So I sort of was fortunate enough to go to he had like a course in Houston, I guess last year. And then I went to an advanced course that he had in San Jose, and I read all his books. And so I've always focused on the front end of software development, right? The interaction. And so I guess I'm getting bored with development, and I'm getting more interested in design. It seems like design and interaction and how that works is arguably more interesting than the programming behind it. But I definitely come from that angle of being a programmer. So anyway, I often work with this project. I force myself to not work with them, to do it myself. I force myself to sort of flex my creative muscle to get better. So I'm excited about this. This is my best design work yet. Haven't done very much. Okay, so let me tell you the problem. Okay, so I use a language called ClojureScript. Has anyone ever heard of? Everyone's heard of JavaScript? Yeah. Who's heard of Clojure? The language Clojure. Okay, so ClojureScript is a dialect of Clojure that compiles to JavaScript, right? And I discovered this language recently, and I used it at work, and I kind of have a community of people in Houston that all use this language, and we love this language, but it's relatively new. And so, most languages have Python has just mountains of documentation and mountains of examples. And it's really, you can go to the Python. Not only is there a Python user group, but there's a Python beginners user group. Well, the ClojureScript has a much smaller community, and so the documentation need is there. So really, the way the Clojure community just says, "Oh, we'll just use our documentation. Just use the Clojure documentation and just kind of figure out where it's different from Clojure to ClojureScript." And so that's not good enough, right? People who are coming to ClojureScript from JavaScript need to have documentation that's tailored to their knowledge base. So this was the problem. This is the problem they're trying to solve. And so let's see. Okay, so yeah. So basically the goal of the project is to improve the documentation for ClojureScript. Also, when people think of Data Vis, they think about charts and graphs and what Jeremy demoed, right? And that was so super cool. But data visualization really can mean a lot of things. It really just and I learned this really in the ET courses, that really any content is data, right? And so we're surrounded by text. I mean, I've got text here, and there's text in these signs, and you're surrounded by fonts, and most data is, words are data, right? They can be viewed as data, and they're not often viewed that way. But if you take the same design approaches that you would take to a data visualization, to text communication, you come to a lot of the same conclusions. And so I kind of was realizing this as I'm reading his books, and I'm doing this, and so I just wanted to share this project. All right, so let me show you the existing Clojure cheat sheet. So this is the oh my gosh. Okay, so this is when you do a Google search for Clojure cheat sheet, this is what comes up. This is on Clojure.org. It's a couple years old. This is largely what I used in order to sort of learn the language of ClojureScript. This was my go-to documentation page. And so when I was, and then there's some variations on this. So when you click on so these are all, Clojure has this sort of very large core library, and you sort of have to learn all these. You have to learn these sort of sections of the library to kind of understand how it works. And this page scrolls down to show you just it's relatively large. There's lots of functionality here. I mean, everything you're seeing in blue is kind of something that you might use on a daily basis. I mean, not everything, but it's common. You are going to use this stuff, right? And there are some variations on this. So this is somebody else's. I'm not sure why this is taking time to load. This is someone's variation on that other cheat sheet, and it's got tooltips over the that sort of show you. There we go. To sort of show you what's going on, right? And Clojure code is a data structure, and so I just want to point this out real quick. So this is the name of the symbol you might be using, and then these are the arguments, and then this is the description, right? So this source, this text, was taken right out of the code just verbatim, right? And so it's I mean it's like text editor text, right? It doesn't have font. It doesn't have indentation. Like if I want this word to highlight this word, but then not the word next to it, or if I want to even have things like bold and italics, I just can't do that.
So you might want to show emphasis.
Right, you want to show emphasis.
We can't, or we don't.
Exactly. It's just such a fundamental oversight in the display of this, right? Okay, so what I did was I didn't have a visual designer, and I said I'm gonna do this myself, and I'm not gonna get help. I'm gonna do this again, right? It's like, I mean, I'm colorblind. I hate colors. I just learned about fonts, and I forced myself to do this. So, like any programmer, I approach the problem by, I'm gonna make this larger. See? Yeah. Okay. So I wrote down everything that I thought was wrong with the other cheat sheet. Everything I thought was wrong, everything I thought was right. And I basically just made this list of like, these are all the things that are good, these are the things that are bad. And then one of the things that ET talks about is a content vampire. And so that's like, the idea there is that you have things on an interface that are there, and they're sort of serving, like your eyes are consuming them, but they're not adding any value or purpose to the display. So I took this like list, this like sketch pad on my whiteboard list, and then I sort of started to write down and said, okay, well, I know I want this, I know I want this, I know I don't need this, I know I want this. And I made this list. And then I started building. And then I kind of went back and forth between the building and the list. And because as you're building, you sort of have this interactive, just like Jeremy was showing, you have this nice interactive feedback. And so actually, I printed off the list. This is actually on my, you can see this in the scrap folder. This is the list that I made in its like latest state. So these are all like the design decisions that I made for this that sort of differentiating it from the previous one. So I was just going to go through that list and talk about these things. Yeah. So this cheat sheet is part of a larger project to make a ClojureScript website, and this is just sort of a small slice of that. And so this repo is for the scope of that whole project. But if you come visit here, you might get a little bit lost. But if you just go in the scrap folder, and you go down to what is it, like a design decisions.mv? Yeah, like this is just, I just printed this, and then I thought I would, what I might do is kind of on the cheat sheet itself have a thing where you press it and it sort of overlays a modal with little pop-ups that show you these design decisions. I just haven't done that yet because, but I thought I'd write on this down. Sure. Okay. Go ahead. I'm just going to go through these. All right. So, and I'm going to kind of flip back and forth between mine and the existing one to point out stuff. So, so the first one, yeah.
More basic. What do you use your Clojure for as opposed to other?
Oh, okay. So ClojureScript. So like Clojure is a language, and it compiles down to Java, and it runs on the JVM. Right? ClojureScript is a language that is the same syntax and core library of Clojure, except it compiles down to JavaScript.
So why don't I just program in JavaScript?
So you can if you want. The Clojure.
But why don't I?
Oh, so ClojureScript is just a much better language than JavaScript. I mean, I could talk about this for hours.
Well, you prefer it because what? It's easy to write parallel code, or you think the syntax is cleaner, it's faster.
It's all those things. So it's I mean, like I said, I give tech talks, so I've given like an hour and a half tech talk on exactly this topic, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's just a much better language than JavaScript. It's got all programming languages have defaults, and so you've got to kind of distinguish between the programming language, which is the construct that you use to write your programming, and then the platform that you run it. Right? So people sort of always conflate these two things. So everybody, in the case of JavaScript, everybody loves JavaScript the platform, right? It's such a no-brainer. We've got it in browsers. We have this arms race with these companies, with these engines, and they're so fast. We've got Node. It's just like this no-brainer. It runs on every device, right? It's just a no-brainer platform. But JavaScript the language is just such a royal mess. It has all the wrong defaults for a programming language. Everything is mutable by default. The only literal data abstractions you have are strings, arrays, and maps. It doesn't even have like sets, for example. It doesn't have immutable data structures, which Clojure has, which is really nice. It give you kind of performance benefits. The syntax is clunky, right? And so you see companies, there's literally over 400 languages that compile down to JavaScript, right? So, I mean, the very short message is, if you want JavaScript the platform, don't feel constrained by JavaScript the language. Like Clojure is just a much better language. There's also a Scala JS, that compiles down to JavaScript and stuff. Yeah, I can talk about JavaScript for a long time.
But so it's a language that he likes, it has benefits, and lets him have access to browsers everywhere.
Yeah. So I have all the benefits of JavaScript the platform, and none of the downfalls of like the language. So I mean, I've been doing JavaScript for a long time. I'm the author of like 3 open source JavaScript libraries. I've written millions of lines of JavaScript code, literally. It's not good.
So it's really like fine for us.
Yeah. I mean, I've earned my stripes in that language. I know that it's not good.
So to help us with ClojureScript, we have an old cheat sheet.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just go through my thing. Okay, so one of the goals. So all right, so type. So type was like the first thing that I considered. So I think this type is Helvetica, but then this might be just like Courier new. And it's clear that really not a lot of thought was put into this, right? So, for example, can you tell the difference between this header and this header?
Position, but no.
Right, position inside of this gray bar, which is like totally throwing colors at you, distracting you. It's very difficult to see that for example, this sequences section contains creating lazy sequence in, sequence out, using a sequence, right? It's kind of hard to see that those 3 things are within the sequences section. And it's completely because of the failure of the type, right? Like, look at this. Right, it's just bad.
Yeah, so what do you do?
Yeah, okay, so
That's a good thing.
okay, so go back and forth. All right, so type. So so I chose Open Sans, right? So I chose Open Sans for the types because Open Sans is clean and legible. And then to pair it with the monospace, I use Droid Sans Mono. So those 2 pair they pair well. So there's only 2 types on the entire page, and then everything that you see is differentiation in color and all caps and weight, right? So the basics at the very top is Open Sans. This is Open Sans, and this is Open Sans. You see how different those 3 look, even though they're the same type? It's amazing that you can do the type. Okay. Yeah, so type differentiation is used to distinguish between group headers, section headers, row labels, and table symbols. Each of these has a distinct appearance. So you could look at each one of these in isolation, and you could tell what it is, which you couldn't do on the other cheat sheet. You'd have to see it sort of in its context. So that was one of my goals. Okay, so I'm going to skip the tooltips because I'll do those later. But tables. So tables are really good. So take a look at the other cheat sheet. And there's a name for this principle, and I can't think of what it is off the top of my head, but it's like the ratio of ink to data. Is that, yeah, I think it has a name. I don't know. Anyway, so look at these tables and look at these bars, these borders on a table, right? Totally not needed. You're really just imprisoning the whole thing, right? So you already have the color differentiation. Even on like typically projectors will kind of wash out the grayscale colors, but even this one's pretty good. But you can still see the differentiation in the lines, right? So on mine, there's no lines, there's no borders, but you have no problems telling the rows, right? You just use color for that. I'm cheating, getting ahead. So tables. So yeah, tables contain no additional marks other than labels and content, and colors used to separate rows. And I really like that idea. There's no mark that it doesn't have some kind of value. Colors. All right. So all of the colors on the page fall within a very narrow band of color spectrum. I think it's like everything is like a 32-bit color, which is crazy because every device in the world has like millions and millions of colors, right? But it means that you're ensuring legibility on a wide range of devices. So I have this sort of old, bad, washed out monitor at home, and that was my baseline. I was like, it has to look. I have to be able to tell the difference between a row on my old, washed out monitor, right? So it looks like really, really crisp on a nice one, but even here it's nice. And I actually think that by constraining my ranges down to this like very small subset of what colors could be, I actually really thought that was helpful, because it let me like know when I picked two colors that were too close. You know, because my goal here was differentiation, right? I'm not doing something where I need like a color spectrum to find. You know, this is not a map. This is not right. I don't need to show fine grain. I need categories, exactly, category separation. So there's only like a handful of colors in this entire thing. That blue is the same blue that Google uses for primary links. I figured that was a winner. I figured they'd tested that. Right. Okay. So let me tell you just let's see, search. Okay, so let me show search real quick. Let me show the whole thing. So I've got these sections, right?
So question, do you represent all of the reference? Do you cover the same amount of content as the other?
Yes. So there are some exceptions to that because like the JVM interop stuff obviously doesn't apply here, and the JavaScript interop stuff obviously doesn't apply there. But largely, it's similar. So there is so content organization though. That is a big piece. So on the other cheat sheet, the content, you can tell this is done by a programmer because the content is organized by the way it's organized inside the code, right? So this is the very top of the page. This is like top of the fold, right? Where's your if statement? Right? What? Oh, it's down in the bottom under like some weird section on where is it? Under special forms, right? No, it's just that's nonsense, right? And it's because this organization reflects the way the language is implemented under the hood, which is kind of this cool, beautiful thing. And I'm sure that the people that wrote this had a very deep understanding of that, but it is not at all what a day-to-day programmer wants, right? I mean, I want the if loop to be at the very top. It's the most basic, fundamental thing that you might have in a programming language, right? So on mine, we have, I mean, if is right there under branching, right? It's just, so I took, this part was really hard. I took all of the content organization that they had and I dumped it out, and then I had to sort of move it around, and I had to move items into and out of sections. And that was actually really hard because it forced me to, as I was doing this, I really did get to know the underlying implementation. Like I know, like after I understood that, I understood why they organized their cheat sheet in that way. And I had to kind of divorce myself from that knowledge and say, okay, well, I definitely want if next to win some. Even though from a language perspective, the if is established here, the win sum is like way over the top of the module. From a day-to-day use as a programmer, those are very it's the same idea, right? This is branching. And that has to do with macros and it has to do with implementation, but you don't push your implementation onto your user, right? It's a mistake. Okay. Oh. That's not a bad idea. There's a project that does that. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but because closure data is a data structure, it's a list. It's really easy to parse, and you can do that kind of thing programmatically in a way that you really can't do in other languages as cleanly as you can in Lisp. But there is a project that shows you that kind of globally for all Clojure projects that are available for it to parse.
So this is we have our curated sheet.
Oh, yeah.
GitHub account on the Clojure programmer and generate a new layout.
Based on that. Yeah. I actually have like I said, I want to do like a full website, and this is just a piece of it. One of my other ideas is to have a Lego list view of this, where it's not, and it can have preview of the doc string. I got my list. List form, and it's pretty good. But yes, it's fun to organize the content. I've really haven't pads everything into its and then animates back to its position, but it's like more trouble than it's worth. It would be super cool,
Show us the tooltips, and then we can close and like.
Okay, yeah. So tooltips. Let me. Okay. Talk about I'm situation. Let me do search real fast. So search. If I search for like foo, it turns red when it doesn't find anything. Else, it you see it highlights. It cuts away everything, but it leaves the section so that you can see in context where, right? So that's kind of nice. So tooltips. Okay, so if I type, bit, you see, yeah, it's always like only sections results. Yeah. Like showing, because I know I'm taking folds the content, the layout, 3 layout, and then each of these, there is a reorg in terms of kind of tricky, but the idea was that you might be a programmer and like you want this to be thin on your monitor, 400 pixel-ish on your, you got your kind of your reference monitor or something. So that was fun coming up with those content bridges and everything. Okay, so tooltips. So tooltips are the heart and soul of this thing, right? Because the tooltips on here are really, really useful, but they have this readability problem, and it's because this guy just wanted to parse it and dump it, and he didn't like think about it, right? So this is the part that by far took the longest time. Getting the design was one thing, and then I went through. If you look at my like GitHub chart, just take a look at Thanksgiving break last year. You'll just see flat through. Yeah, I mean I'm just like black all the way for like 5 or 7 days, and I went through every single doc string in the code, and I moved it into its own file. And so I did this for a very specific reason, and that's because programmers, if you go here, you go to docs. So I moved every single one into like the CLJS doc file, which I just invented, right? And it's a real simple format. And the description is Markdown. So that's the big difference, is that the description is Markdown. And a lot of this was programmatically done, but I chose text files specifically because instead of like a database, because what happens is that this gets parsed and then put it in JSON and fed into the thing, and that's how it gets there. But we can manage it using the tools we already use every day, day in, day out, right? Like all programmers know Markdown. It's like really easy for us to manage this content changing over time. So that was a big, like, but I went through each doc string and I added, like, in that case of, I have like a really good example of this, but I can't think of it right now. Oh yeah, quote. Yeah, so like, see how much you do, and then I've got these, sorry. And you can send a pull request and it just updates. Yeah, just like that. It's really, really simple. I mean, it took a lot of upfront work, but now it can be managed in a way that is like really accessible to everybody, right? Okay, so I've got these related. Also, the use of type on the font and type on the thing. So almost everything in here is in core, unless it's prefixed. Like in the case of these string functions, let's say closure.string and split. Right, so closure.string/split is different than like core split. By default, everything in core is there, and you don't have to prefix it. But the namespace ones you do. So
see again the font differentiation. Like just making this a lighter font and like putting emphasis on like split, you can still see like what's going on. And then you've got multi-arity, and then you've got non-monospace, amazing, right? Non-monospace text for our doc strings. And then I like this feature too.
So you can highlight over this and see it highlights subs, so you can see where things are at. But then I can go to like replace, and see it.
It knows that replaces underneath it, and so it does opacity to show you where it's at.
I like that feature.
So having these special cases is really important.
It is these.
That's the interaction design we're talking about.
Yes, these little things really add up, right?
And so we have a web app that's a cheat sheet of text here, but we can have a dashboard, we can have a set of interactive graphics, and we'll have these things.
Yeah. These tooltips, these little eyes, so these are important. So this is a day-to-day bread and butter for somebody who's using it. So these little eyes, like you don't need these after the first week, 2 weeks. You notice stuff, you've learned it, it's in your background. But you definitely do want to reference the stuff that's blue. Well, also on the blue, I took away the underlines. So just kind of visually
Compare this to right. It's just so unnecessary, right? The color is all you need. That just goes back to that extra mark thing, right? I used to have the underlines, and I was just like, I took them out. You don't need it. You can do the color. But so these eyes, though, these little kind of info tooltips are designed to kind of
be there when you don't know what a function is, right? Your brand new language, you don't know what a function is. Each of these little eyes references JavaScript. So it's designed for a programmer who's coming from JavaScript to be like, oh, you're familiar with this concept in JavaScript? Here's the concept in Clojure. Now you're good. Once you read these out once, you probably don't need to read them again. But you still got to reference the like docs often. So because they're only useful for like beginners, but you're going to use this every day as a Clojure programmer,
I wanted them to kind of fade in the background. So even though they're there, they don't really draw focus to you. They're gray. They're kind of in the background, right? If you don't know about strings, you are going to be interested. I'm going to do like 1 or 2 more features.
This is my actual favorite feature
of the language. So like raise your hand if you're a programmer and you know JavaScript or Python.
Okay, so we have literal data formats, right? So like our vectors have brackets and then maps, right? So that's called the literal data format, and lots of languages have it. And Clojure is no exception. So I've got the literal format next to the section, right? So if you're new to programming, you have no idea what that means. Like, who doesn't program in this room? Do you have any idea why I have curly braces next to the map word? Not at all, right? But if you're a programmer, do you understand what that means? Right? So it's a thing that doesn't hurt your understanding, right? But once you get it, once you do understand this notion, this idea of literal data, which is kind of it's a powerful concept in a list, you're gonna have this aha moment where, oh gosh, there's the literal format next to every data type. And the thing I want to point out is that I don't need a tooltip to show you that, right? It's just there, and you're gonna have that aha moment to figure it out, or you never are, and you never are, and it doesn't matter to you, and it doesn't matter, right? But when you have I've had several people email me and say like, I love how you put the set literal next to the set section. That like they made it, right? So those little things really.
One more quick thing about having the markdown. I know you're trying to. So look what you can do. All right, this is like such a good example.
That's a table. Like amazing, right? So the doc string for this is a function that converts stuff from one format to the other format. And so the doc string reads transforms sets into array or like sets into arrays and vectors. It's like 8 sentences long. Boom. Table. Markdown. Not monospace.
So like, let's go find this one.
This one's not going to exist because it's a ClojureScript specific one. But
so what does it go for?
So yeah, I'll show you. I can show you in ClojureScript core.
Is there some other way to set up from your markdown text file?
There's a sentence. I can try to find it. Yeah, just give me a. It's gonna take a while to load.
Are you searching for the bad example of the sentences?
Oh, it's just okay. It's just a table markdown, right? So CLJS.
Yeah. So it's one of these.
It's just CLJS. There it is. Boom.
So in Markdown, you use types and dashes, and you can make it right.
It's like labor of love is my labor of love.
Yeah, so let's get some.
I got covered all my points.
As always, I'll stick around after questions, stick around for a little bit. If you have questions before then. Thanks for coming out tonight. If you're curious about the space, this is TXR Clubs. It is a maker space. If you ask nicely, I can go back to some of your shows. Yeah, so if you'd like to click it, you can definitely look around. There's some really awesome equipment here. There's open house, couple times each week, I think Fridays and Sundays, and the winter definitely has to learn more. We will do this again next month. It'll be we're going to try, so we'll have a lot of videos happening at once, and maybe longer, so for advice there. So 2 or 3 people can go around, you can ask questions, perhaps spend a little more time learning about some content and the workflow. So that's next month, but really in a week from now, there is a third person that we found.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for it.
He is a information designer, and so friends at AIGA, artists are putting that on. You can buy tickets if you want to go. After that, or not, we're going to meet up for drinks downtown. So that's all we have. It'll be a lot of fun.
Can we meet up where?
Yeah, so if I can ask Chris to go to that second tab.
Yeah.
And click that big red banner, it'll take you back to the main link and we can show it.
I'm gonna stop.
I think we can all go for hang out. Maybe we don't know if it's too fresh and maybe
I don't know. No, it's really unresponsive.
We're the big red banner.
This one.
Get the link actually. So
Visualization.
yeah, so the second one, yeah, absolutely. Click it. You'll see that
Yeah.
if we scroll down, we'll see some of the consultant's work, key cases and reports about slang that we'll look at.
Yeah. It's been an awesome event.
I always encourage this, if you want hiring, if you have skills, if you're looking for work, tell me, tell others here. You'd be surprised what kind of opportunities are. Yeah, let's see.
Back and top one.
Oh, yeah, that's really nice to meet you. I just got the meeting yesterday. It's like, yeah. So I'll tell you, there's medical program, Yes, and we were talking about putting these technologies to training in the lab. There are
I know very little programming, so it'd be almost just great to learn and just have a chance to sort of work closely with someone else
yeah, so you'd have some project or some product, but maybe also work together.
that would be great. Thanks so much.
Have a great night.
So these are right here. I may not seem like much, but it's publishing that takes your RFID card that you're given as a member. You can put money in it, have a save out, and guide those or put on your delivery. And right here, in the future, we will have things like parking around your device, maybe header pins that also links your RFID and your and the demand is to install the RFID off the various options that have been switched favorite machines, so only people who are certified. So right here we have our machine up.
I probably won't be back until very tomorrow. I'll be out there. It's not. It's got like 6 yeah. Hopefully it'll last long enough to make sure. However, I did realize I made a huge mistake in buying some 1/4-inch ply. Yeah. Because there's like 9,000 cut pieces out there. I bought some birch for the bottom of that box. But I was looking to see what we had to make a jig out of. I'm like, there's no fucking snack on it. Yeah. Yeah, so I borrowed.
Dates and shit. All I need to do is just sit there and draw. I don't need to like even listen.
See you later this week.
Right on, Bert. We got it all. Who's this? God, there's a pro move right there.
You don't have enough tape measure in here, do you? Tape measure. Shit. I didn't want to walk out there. What are you doing, Matt?
Bring it down? Yeah. That's awesome. I thought it was working, man. It's working.
There's a lot of demand.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just on my own.
I wish I worked with brokers. Yeah, where I work, I can work at a big company. There's a UX department. And I have like a handful of friends that work with. I don't know, like I feel like I get strengths for projects. I kind of think this my UX and my background. But it was really cool to see because I live a lot. I mean, the science is like you got right? Oh yeah, yeah. I was at like terrible. No, but you learn. I mean, yeah, I was at some petroleum conference, but I was like, they were demoing like these Rice grad students had these posters, and they had them, they're big. Show it to you. And I just said, I was like, it was terrible, right? And but you knew that they had no training. You had some friends. So I said, like, what tool did you use to make it? They had some tool, like all the details of the tool were all just wrong. If they just spent 30 minutes with the graphic designer, they could have got all the loving. You don't have to go deep dive on everything. Like often like just
Yeah. There's a concept too that I mean, that designers, graphic designers, really what they want to do is everyone on board that there's probably
Yeah. Yeah. Rice, Rice physics PhD, art college 2-year students who are hungry for work and get like really good results.
I studied architecture, and so you have to print up your work on the wall, and a lot of it is about presentation and layout. A lot of people, they have the problem of cramming too much information into one space. So it's funny that you guys struggle with the same thing. It's like a different topic, even though it's like a universal problem, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
It's interesting.
presentations.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at my consulting firm, we spend a lot of time on like PowerPoint slides. Even though if you have a great product, you just send it out there. It's like crap.
That's another thing. The website is Clojure is really bad marketing. So we want Clojure script to have.
Yeah.
This is not live yet, but it's going to be live. Designer friends. They're what you need.
So did you set this up?
So my designer friend like did this. But
Okay.
yeah. He came up with the logo. Yeah, I actually paid him for the logo specifically because the Clojure logo is like this horrible thing. It's got this lambda symbol, and look at those colors and all the white space. It's just like a really bad logo. And after like much deliberation, we came up with this, which sort of pays homage to it, and that it's got the colors and it's got kind of the differentiation, but it's much cleaner, right? Also, I want to do the branding around like CLJS because Clojure script is one word. Clojure, there's like 5 things called Clojure. It's confusing as to which one you're talking about. But like CLJS is pretty distinctive. Like the website cljs.info, just a nice, clean domain, small domain.
Yeah, let's share. She's a graphic designer.
He took the cheat sheet and he put it in the background.
That was good.
I like that. Yeah, I need to go. Thanks. Yeah, I love speaking. Thanks, Micah.
Good to see you, Chris.
Yeah.
Come back and do this again.
Okay.
So let me show you a project that you might be able to imitate. It's a noble goal. Mine is asleep for about an hour or 2 now. Good luck. So there is a group called SwissNext. It's a organization from that country. They're interested in
San Francisco, huh?
yes, but many cities.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And they have a challenge to visualize like pollution data and air quality data.
Okay.
And so what they've done is hand out sensors, which you see in this background here. DOI sensors, they're cheap.
Uh-huh.
And they build a website and they promote it a bit, and somewhere there's a map. They build some basic visualizations, and then they have a series of hackathons or events in these cities where people are excited, and it's a chance to maybe this is both show off your skills, but also contribute a tool or a map for this project. And here's the map.
Do you know anyone that's ever taken GIS information?
So I've done it a little bit. There's a guy in Austin, in Detroit, who file, or just says you can put it in a visualization on the web.
So you export it after the fact, like into a vector file, and then you can use it, or can you use it straight from the source? I
Well,
don't know how it all works yet, but
right. So that's an excellent talk. Do you have an email address or a card?
yeah, I do. 'Cause we're actually working also with the.
I should email you notes on maps.
Cool. Yeah, we're working with the Houston Area Council, and
Neat.
they're letting us access all their stuff. And they have a GIS guy that we're
Absolutely.
working with, and he's going to help us kind of, get organized on what they've got.
Yeah. So hopefully this will load, and I'll show you something nice. So once it does, it'll be cool. Let's close all the other tabs. So the upshot of this is hackathons, events are great ways to engage with people and produce something you might use, but also a great way to find people you might want to work with more.
Right.
And you might want to, it'd be a voluntary thing, their company wants them to spend time on this. You might want to hire them. You might get a grant, and you could hire them with a grant.
That's kind of the we're all volunteers. We're not doing this for any money.
Of course.
But we're thinking at this point, once we get the actual proposal lit up, we'll go around and seek grants or stuff like
And these events are a way to find people who work with technology, but it's also a way to get press and meet people who also care about what you're doing.
Right.
Have you met Jeff Reichman?
No.
So he's a guy who coordinates a group called Open Houston and has a lot of kind of the same goals, I think.
Open Houston?
It's a meetup group. They work with government data, with open data, think about neighborhoods. And it's just failing terribly. I'm sorry. Let's refresh it here. Okay, so I'll let you write, and then you can see this. So in San Francisco right now, there's a temperature, a reading in millivolts from this pollution sensor, a noise sensor, humidity. We can switch over and look at Geneva, I believe. And of course, you've got this time series. It's maybe a day. I think it's a day or 2 days. So if I click it, it ought to update, and here it ought to update. It does update. If I click the map.
And this is recording from the sensors
that I just showed you, right? Yeah. So they get many of these in the city. It's averaged over the last 24 hours, right? And can you go with me through 2 tabs?
Yeah.
Let's say Bay D3 meetups. This is a sister meetup in San Francisco, and they did a hackathon last weekend. And Ian Johnson, the guy who organizes it, posted a tool, a nice way to look at this. So here's their.
The Open Houston. Do they do the hackathons that you're telling me?
They've organized them in the past, and Jeff Reichman does that. He does it because he loves it. He also gets funding from the city to put on hackathons. And so they'll be like, hey, here's $20,000, do a nice event, or here's a space and $4,000, do a small event and promote it. So if I go to the comments here, I'll show you the link. So this guy made a helper. So you have their stock graphic. Someone has built this as an example. We can say this raw data, and it's gonna show you something. It's gonna show you API documentation, and this is how you can use a program to call and get certain fields. So basically, you paste this link in, and you build up what you want, and then you get results. This guy is say, look, here's the link, and here's the results.
Okay.
He made a tool that makes it really easy. So this is the mean of the data. So we can change this, right? So let's get the max, and here it is. And this is something that we could copy and For example, we could copy it and paste it into a terminal window like you saw Jeremy talking about, and format it as a Python list, and away we are. We can make charts. So if you had a hackathon, you would want to beforehand think about some data set that you could either gather, it's already there, or you could build, and you can use sensors, or if you're really interested in neighborhoods and maps, you'd want to collect those.
The
And
issue seems to have a lot of stuff, but it's not easily accessible for anyone, right?
Right.
You got to be able to use the system to know how to even.
So do they use ArcGIS from Esri? What do they
I
use?
think that's what they use.
Right.
I used that briefly in school once, but I mean it's pretty cumbersome, for
Right.
the average everyday person. You got to know.
So there's also a whole groups like sponsored by Esri of JS developers.
Really?
So you could invite them, and maybe they would want to do some work in that tool. They already have licenses. But to be honest with you, if you export the shape files, you can make D3 maps. So I'm just going to hazard this. So this is an example about a D3 map, but let's see. So Stack Exchange, Stack Overflow is a wonderful question and answer site. So this guy is like, I'm using this tool and I want to create GeoJSON, which is an alternative format for representing maps or place information from this input.shp, a shapefile. And so he's saying he has a problem. And so if we scroll down, we can probably see an answer. So he's saying, I figured out that I can use D3 this different way and read it in and use a Mercator projection, and I get something meaningful. So here's the short link. And it looks like these are regions in Germany, Bundesländer. And maybe it'll render. But while it renders, I'll show you this example. So Mike Bostock works for the New York Times. He wrote D3, this visualization library. And this is a map, right? So this tutorial is excellent. You get set up. He walks you through the process of converting a shape file to a JSON file, JavaScript object notation. And so this is involved. Like, I followed this myself. It's like a nice 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon. But it's step by step.
I don't code or anything, so I'd have to, learn the basics.
You would learn the basics, but it's all here. And so you'll get to this point where you have a tiny Great Britain. No labels, no subdivisions. Then you'll have a very nice larger Great Britain with some nice coastline, right?
Yeah,
nice detail.
Nice detail there. Yeah, you've got your countries.
You can assign classes to different regions. And hold on, it's Wales, it's Northern Ireland, it's Scotland. And here we have added the border of Ireland because we want to show the landmass, and we're also adding borders here. And so you see this step in the workflow. You can add cities and labels. There's maybe something we can do to improve the way we lay out the labels.
So these are all from shape files?
So here's the thing. So let's go look at the source, and you'll see. So, and actually, sorry, this is just the whole page. So we want to find the code. So here we go. Census Bureau publishes geometry. The Ordnance Survey provides the data for the UK. So that is just their website. Unfortunately, it's hard to use. So they try to make it better. So he gives you all this information about different data sources, but he's saying Natural Earth is the one he landed on. It's a project. So you need two. He needs the details of the administrative units and populated places. So basically he's using two different sources, one for cities and one for regions. So man, I'm downloading some zip files. Let's take a risk. So, gonna open this up. Hopefully my boss doc doesn't give me something unpleasant. Suppose I can always wipe the laptop and start over. So yeah, here we go. So inside the zip file is a shape file and all kinds of interesting things. I don't remember if this is binary or if we can like make sense of it, but I'm sure gonna try to open it in a text editor. So, and I hope it's 8 megabytes. Hopefully I don't choke on this. It's also inside of the zip file. So I would really like to use my nice text editor. So I'm gonna find it and program files. So I'll show you my program files here. So let's use Sublime Text. I guess I'm not using the new version. Let's try that one and let's say okay. So either you'll see lists of points or you'll see just numbers and it's binary and we have to convert it first. I don't remember if this is compiled or not. But this is a thing that I like to do. Just try to open a file and see what you get. And I hid my taskbar and it was probably a pretty bad idea. So let's open it up. So yeah, so it's binary. So you need to use a tool to convert it into something useful. So those are just blocks of binary. So you could also open this up with Esri or like maybe OpenJS is another tool. There's some free tools. But yeah, it's shapefile. So you go through all this. I'll show you the output. And then maybe I should ask you what you think or pause. But I really want to show you the output. So where is the JSON that he makes? So it's uk.json. So actually, let's just go to this. So we're going to go to the end result. And we are going to view the source. So in a browser, any website you visit, you can view the code. So we're going to view the source. And we are going to search for JSON. And look, it loads uk.json. So I bet that's a good file to look at. And so this is a folder. And so let's just go up here and here it is. So this is JSON. It could be formatted more nicely. In fact, let's see if we can do that. So a website that will make this look pretty for you, called JSON Formatter, easily enough. So I just copied it all, and hopefully it will not get unhappy. So it's going to think about it, and then it should show us something nice to see. But these are our coordinates. Like, you know, it's X and Y. The way that these shapefiles work is it's relative to some points. You need to know what the center of it is. Then that's part of your projection task. How do you relate the center of this file to an absolute place on the earth? So here you go. So it's a scale. It's translating it. So these are coordinates. So again, this lesson may be a little more detailed than you were bargaining for. But if we open up Google Maps, I can put these coordinates. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that at any point you can say this is a real thing. I can go look at it in another tool and get a result I recognize. So I'm going to paste one, have a comma. Okay, and I'm hoping that I'm pasting them in the right order. And then So this is decimal that long. What's that scene like? What is the headphone swap scene like? Right. Yes. What is the state of the art for wireless headphones today? Okay. Yeah. So here's the payoff. It should render, and I should really get a new laptop. So, man, I really thought that it would, and I can't tell if it's still working or I should hit refresh. Let's get impatient and hit refresh.
You guys are having an event next week.
Yes, we are. You should come out. So we're having an after party for an event that AIJ is putting on.
AIJ.
The American Institute Association of Graphic Artists,
Oh, cool.
like professional art for graphic artists.
Oh, awesome.
In case we overlap. So.
And that was what you showed.